damn, dude, yo, fuck, I'm split right now, I'm torn, like, half of me is like, yo, no lie, no matter what I want to say, even though I'm critical from the light novel perspective right now, that shit was still hype, okay? And then the other part of me is like, yo, I'm so disappointed in certain portions of this episode, the ending especially, and how it was executed, and just how oh my god, dude. But ultimately, dude, Overlord episode 12 is fucking hype. I don't care what anybody says, light novel readers, anime onlys alike, it was fucking hype, okay? Did it have its problems? Yes. Was it not hype? No, it's fucking crazy, okay? Shalltear versus Ainz. Overall, how Madhouse captured, the insane, completely absurd spectacle that I crafted in my mind when I read this arc and when I finished Volume 3, is captured very fucking well. I'm not gonna lie. The exchange, the whole skirmish, and granted the pacing of it was off, and I think that's one of the reasons that we ran into problems, but ultimately, the whole exchange, the majority of the dialogue was captured between the two of them with this battle, and the whole exchange played out, pretty much piece by piece exactly as it occurred in the light novels. Yes, when I crafted my mind, it was some crazy shit. It's like the difference between like reading Harry Potter or something and then you seeing the Harry Potter film back in the day. Like that's the only insight I can think of. Yeah, it was some crazy spectacle in my mind. I had some fluid as insane shit going on in my mind. And it was much more stiff than that with Madhouse and this battle animation. However, it was still clean, it was still on point, the magic spells and the skills looked beast, okay, for the most part, I was disappointed with the last one, I'll get into that in a second, but for the most part, it looked beast, right? So before I get into the problems that I have, and really, I feel as though a good amount of people know that if you've read, Volume 3 of Overlord, you'll know where the problems truly lie with this. And ultimately, what I was thinking, it boils down to when he cast the Cry the Banshee skill, right? First of all, there's a lot of exposition, and it's been like that throughout this adaptation. There's been portions, exposition has been glossed over, especially in Bloody Valkyrie arc, especially in the last 3 episodes. I feel as though the pacing was the most rushed that it's been, and we've lost a lot of things that I really wanted to see in the adaptation, okay? And, once again, the biggest thing that that has been lost with this adaptation is a lot of Ainz' mentality, his mental state at certain points, and in this fight, like, here's the thing, in the fight in the light novel, yes, Ainz is still fucking badass. He's OG, he's going in, starts off with the buffs, starts off with, the special tier magic. He's just going in like a fiend, alright? He's fucking monstrous, and he's cocky. The whole dialogue between him and Albedo is spot on, I'm not going to lie. But they cut all of his internal thoughts, or a majority of them, not all of them, but a vast majority. Like, they still had all his internal thoughts where tactics were concerned, but in terms of his feelings, showing him kind of getting upset with the progression of the battle, because, it showcases him in the light novel as a little bit of having that sore loser mentality. If something doesn't go his way, he's like, fuck this, what is this? There's a portion of this fight where he curses Pereronchino, I believe. He legit's like, yo, why did you have to give her, like, before he casts Cry the Banshee, and he realizes that Shalltear has this resurrection spell, and he knew about it in the first part. He knew that she had Einhurjar, and they could have gone into more explanation exactly what Einhurjar was, but ultimately, I guess if you look at it, and you can kind of grasp the situation, it's fine, but I wanted to see that ill will for a quick second, a little bit of hatred towards, his Nakama that he's, to this whole point, he loves so much. And I love how, the dialogue that I thought was exempted from last episode was brought back at the beginning of this fight, where he's basically like, I didn't want to see you guys fighting each other and killing each other anyway. But I digress. Just certain matters there, the whole fact, there's this whole thing, light novel readers know exactly what I'm talking about with all of this, right? The very fact that he mastered the Eclipse class and then goes into that whole dialogue where he is the true overlord and everything like that, like only a select few, it details how difficult it is to actually get this class. You have to master like 5 classes, then level up your undead shit to like level 95, do some crazy shit. Honestly, probably the only one to be able to cast this Cry of the Banshee skill, dude. And that was the biggest problem for me, dude. The fact that it just cut to white, like I was so hype at that moment, dude. I saw the clock ticking down, the fight was just hype hype for me. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how, yes, there was things, you know, missing, and there's certain dialogues and stuff like that I was talking about earlier, you know, certain internal monologues that were cut, but it was still a beast fight. But then it fades out. I hear the based ED drop, and yes, we have the post-credit scene where Ainz is kind of outlining. He's like, "Oh, if you weren't so cautious, yeah, I mean, he's like, if you were more cautious, you wouldn't have fallen into my plans like this." And he's revealing that everything is gone. And, okay, Kakadori, everything's been going according to plan since the jump, dude. And I love how they portrayed the tactics once again, you know, throughout the fight. Like, it just went how I pictured it in my mind, you know, how Ainz was kind of baiting her with the triple explosive mines in the air and everything like that. And that showcases a level of caution from Shalltear, but she was so confident in the matchup, and as Kakuta said before the fight, it's 3-7 in you know, Shalltear's favor. So all that took, like, but here's the thing, the Cry of the Banshee, dude. In the light novel, like, here's how I think they could have made it better, because everybody knows, all you have to do, all I can say to anime onlys, if you don't understand where the complaint comes from, you just have to read this scene in particular. But I highly recommend everybody that's really enjoyed the Overlord anime to jump on the light novels. I'm going to be continuing my reading of the light novels. I stopped at the end of volume 3 because I knew, you know, I caught up halfway through the core. I knew it was going to end here, and I just wanted to finish the anime before I continued onward. But I highly recommend everybody goes back to volume 1 if you haven't read the light novels all and read it. But I digress. They should have had Hunter x Hunter style narrator, like, throughout this fight. They should have had it throughout Overlord so that it made sense in this fight. They could have, instead of having that post, you know, that post-credit scene, or that, you know, end-credit scene during the ED, they should have cut that. We have episode 13 coming. They could have had that at the beginning of episode 13, or just showcased a quick, you know, glance between the two, and instead taken 2 whole fucking minutes in that kind of white light and showcased the utter destruction that Cry of the Banshee causes, dude, and had the narrator actually read the dialogue from the light novel, where it's basically like everything died, the air was devoid of life. It was some crazy shit, dude. It was some insane shit. When I read the conclusion of this battle, this whole battle for me, I was like, the Bloody Valkyrie arc is the best thing I've read in this entirety, like, so far in Overlord. And yes, I don't know about volumes 4 through, you know, wherever we're at this point, but this was my hype shit, right? And ultimately they captured it well. Ultimately it was fucking hype. I'm not gonna lie, and especially I feel like from an anime only perspective, they would be hype on this episode. But they could have done it. So if they just got the Hunter x Hunter style narrator to read that shit and kind of showcase, you know, the death in that scenario and everything that around it, it would have been beast. But, and like I said, a little bit more exposition to, you know, Ainz's mentality and the breakdown of explaining certain skills a little bit more. Ultimately, throughout the battle, you know, all the spells and skills that they used were pretty much straightforward, explained piecemeal how it was in the light novel, and they did a good job of kind of choreographing this battle as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it was more spectacular in my mind, but it was still beast. But just that ending, it lacked the impact that it had when I read it, dude. It just lacked the impact, that utter sense of awe that I was just in when I read it. So that's pretty much it, dude. But just to break down the episode real quick before we end, ultimately, as an adaptation, quite well done. You know, the scene included at the beginning, you know, between Demiurge and Albedo, just kind of getting pissed off. I'm not feeling Demiurge's voice actor right now. I'm going to say that right now, because the man is just kind of falling short of what I expect Demiurge to sound like. But I digress. He's pissed. He's like, why'd you let him go? Albedo explains her reasoning. Kakutis is like, how it's fucking black. Like, that's one of my favorite lines, dude. And Kakutis is like, how dare you tell Albedo to step down from the position that the Supreme Beings gave her? It's fucking blasphemy, dude. I'm like, yo, Kakutis is a beast. You have Oramara waiting in the wings with the world-class items, you know, scouting for any enemy presence and everything, even though Ainz knows that that's not the case, and, you know, even though fucking Albedo and Demiurge saw through it, and Oramara, they're young, they're innocent, they don't see through the lies like that. But everything took place and progressed, you know, as I would have expected it, and ultimately I was happy with the way things broke down. But it could have been fucking better. It definitely could have been better. And there's one more thing though, dude. Fucking one thing I have to mention real quick. When he was casting the buffs, dude, greater hardening, penetrate up, dude. I was expecting, like, both when I read it and even for them to throw in some fan service for the Albedo fans right here, I was expecting them to be like, yo, cut quick to Albedo and be like, how dare she, because the innuendo in Overlord is strong, dude. I was like, how dare he use those skills against, those buffs against Shalltear, dude. That would have been great. But anyway, I digress. The only thing I'm concerned about right now, and I believe it's a 13 episode core, I believe heavily that we're getting episode 13 next week, especially with that ending and the setup. If that's going to be a cliffhanger ending for the core, then we better have a fucking season 2, because that's one of the worst cliffhanger endings I've seen. If we don't, like, that's worse than No Game, No Life cliffhanger ending, if there's not going to be an episode 13. And the only reason I say this, because it's slated for 13 episodes, I believe episode 13 is airing next Tuesday, but Funimation tweeted that this was the finale. He was like, Shalltear versus Ainz in the finale, in all caps. So, I don't know what the fuck that means, dude. There better be episode 13 next week. That's all I'm saying, dude. If anybody has any clarification on this, let me know. Well, that's pretty much it, dude. Let me know your thoughts. Light novel readers, anime onlys alike. Let me know your thoughts on this battle between Ainz and Shalltear. You hype for next week to see the conclusion. Personally, overall, it was beast, but it fell short in certain parts. So, let me know your thoughts, and I'm out. Peace.